Hello there! Welcome to Changing Variables, the continuing saga of how to use variables for fun and hopefully for profit, depending on how your career goes after you've done this. Okay, so as always, hi, it's Pippin. I'm going to be talking about changing variables. This is a pretty fun part of programming. In a lot of ways, this is really at the heart of how we get stuff done. So it's a big one, and I'm excited to go through it and look at the magic of changing our own variables. All right, but really what's important is not my face, but the text editor, Atom. So I'm back with the code from the last video. As you'll probably recall, this is just some code that draws an ellipse on the screen. There's our ellipse and our canvas. So it's just a nice circle drawn in the center of the screen. But we can see that all of the important numbers in our program are now variables up at the top of the screen. So, at the top of this file. So our code is nice and easy to read. But as we were saying in the title of this lecture or this video, variables can change, right? And we already know how variables can change. They change because we put things in them, right? So for example, if before I drew my ellipse, so here in my draw, I wanted to change the size of the circle, I could say I want to change it, so I'm going to write its name, circle size. Remember here, because circle size already exists, I declared it up here on line 11, I don't need to write let, because I'm using the variable now. I'm going to put something into it. We only do the let thing just one time when we create it for the very first time. So circle size, if I want to change it, I'm going to want to put something new inside of it. So I'm going to use the assignment operator, the equals sign, and then I'm going to choose my new value. So maybe I want to make it really small. So circle size equals 50. Perfect. So now, just before I draw my ellipse, I set circle size to 50 so that when it draws the ellipse, it's going to use that new value. So if we go back and look at the program, there we go. That's kind of hopefully what we expected. I changed circle size. The ellipse is drawn based on circle size, and because I changed it to 50, now my ellipse is drawn with a diameter of 50 pixels. So it works. I can change variables inside my program. Now, I hear you probably saying this is not very exciting because now my program is just sitting there with this 50 pixel circle instead of the whatever 100 pixel circle that I had before. And you're right, that's not actually that exciting. Really, this is the same thing. It's just we're just ending up with another value that can't change because I only change it once and I always change it to exactly the same thing, 50. So every time through draw, we color in the background, we set circle size to 50, and then we draw our 50 pixel circle on the next line. So there's no chance for anything to change. What we really want to do instead of just setting circle size to a specific number is we want to change the number relative to what it already was. Okay, so instead of setting circle size directly to 50, what I really want to assign into circle size is itself, circle size, plus something, let's say. So to do mathematics, which we can do with variables and numbers in programming, we use the symbols that you're probably going to expect. So if we want to add something to circle size, we say circle size plus with the plus sign, and then what we want to add to it. So circle size plus 1. So if you think about this from the perspective of the start of the program, we know that circle size starts as 200. The program begins and we go into draw. It draws the background and then it sees this line and it says, okay, I'm going to put into circle size whatever is in circle size now, which is 200. We know that from up here. And I'm going to also add 1 to that number. So 200 plus 1 is 201, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm going to put 201, which is the result of this little calculation here, into circle size. So now circle size is 201. So when I draw my ellipse, it's at x, the x and the y, and 201. When we come around for the next frame, we redraw the background. Circle size is now going to be assigned circle size, which is now 201 plus 1. So it's going to be 202. That goes in there. We draw the ellipse size of 202. Back around, 203. We draw it at 203. Back around, 204. We draw it at 204. I was tempted to just keep going there, but I won't. you can see what's happening, right? Circle size, the number is getting bigger. It gets bigger by 1 every frame. What does that mean is going to happen with the ellipse? Well, let's go look. We save, and we go back, and the ellipse is growing. We have an animation, right? It's not being controlled by the mouse this time. It's being controlled from within the program. The circle gets bigger and bigger until it eats the entire canvas. Now we're just seeing the circle, the belly of the circle, and it keeps getting bigger, and for as long as the program runs, that circle is getting bigger, huger. It's encompassing my entire house now, my neighborhood, etc., etc. So kind of exciting. I'll reload the program. We can see, again, it grows. So it starts at the starting value of 200 and gets bigger by 1 every frame. That's what that one line of code is doing. Kind of amazing. So this is how we change a variable relative to itself, right? Circle size is the variable I want to put something into, and what I want to put into it with the assignment operator is itself plus 1. So it gets bigger by 1. Perfect. That's it. Again, a lot of programming is very simple. A lot of programming is about what you do with it later on. But for now, what we want to do is just understand how this stuff works, basically. And we'll work out the doing more and more amazing things with it over time. Now, there's all of the different kinds of math are available. So we could also, for example, change another one of the variables. Let's change circle y. That seems a bit more fun. Circle y, again, I'm going to change it relative to itself. So circle y equals circle y, but we'll use minus this time. So it's circle y value is going to get less by 1 every frame. So it starts at 250, it's going to go to 249, then 248, 247, etc. And if you remember how the y values are numbered in programming, because its y value is getting smaller, it's actually going to move upwards, not downwards. So it's getting bigger because of the circle size, and it's going up by 1 pixel every frame because of, ooh, that looks really cool, because of the circle y, because we're subtracting a pixel. So now it's like it's floating up like a giant expanding balloon. So that's pretty neat. Again, reloading, quite a cool effect. There's a little moment there where it starts to look like a weird landscape changing or something, which I quite like as well. And all of the two other key pieces of math that you might enjoy are there as well. So we could also, for instance, increase circle size not by adding 1, but by multiplying it by a number, such as 1.01. And we could change circle y not by subtracting a number, but by dividing it by something. Let's also do that. So this is get a little bit more confusing, right? Because we're not used to thinking about movement in terms of multiplication and division. But you can see that because circle size is being multiplied by a number greater than 1, 1.01, it's going to get bigger, right? Each frame, it's still going to get bigger, but it's going to get bigger according to multiplication, which has a slightly different quality to it. The effect is going to be increased over time. And circle y is going to go, what the hell is circle y going to do? I guess it's going to go up. Actually, I don't know what it's going to do. So let's find out. That's I probably could figure it out, but let's just go look. Oh, that's disappointing. What have I done wrong? Circle size equals circle size times, oh, I see. I just needed to reload it. Okay, so you can see it just happened in the background there. So I reload often it's worth reloading your program at least once before you give up and feel upset. So reload, you can see it's sort of moving up and getting bigger. So it's moving up, I guess circle y is, yeah, it's still getting smaller, right, because it's being divided by a small number. It just wouldn't move up very, very significantly over time. Okay, so multiplication and division, they're there, like it's maths. Maths is there. It's there for you and it's there for me, and we're all super happy about that. One nice thing to notice, again, like we saw in the previous video, it's important to remember that it's not just things that you normally think of as being controlled by numbers like sizes and positions. The background shade is also a number. So we could also, for instance, change the background shade equals background shade. Now it starts at 0, so let's add a small number to it. I'll add 0.5? Yeah, 0.5 every frame. So it starts at 0, becomes 0.5, then it becomes 1, 1.5, etc. We know that 0 is black, and we know that bigger numbers are closer to white. So if we keep adding numbers to the background shade, we are going to get brighter and brighter backgrounds. So let's go see that happening. Reload. You can see, although my circle is a little bit domineering there, let's make this change a bit faster. I'll make it add 1 instead of 0.5. And you can see the background there is getting lighter and lighter before the circle engulfs the universe. So the background is changing color, and in fact, let me just not change those other two things. So I'm commenting out the two circle size lines because they were kind of causing me a bit too much trouble. By the way, I did that with a keyboard command. So command / will comment or uncomment the line that you have selected. And if you select multiple lines, it will do it to all of them, right? So I'm just getting rid of those so that the circle behaves itself. So now we can see that background going from black and increasingly getting lighter as background shade goes closer and closer to 255, which is white, and then it stays white. Okay, so we can control any number using maths, and to some huge extent, I guess, that really is just how programming works to a large extent. So let's go to a simpler version. Let's go back to simpler days. Let's just change the circle's x position, and we'll just add 1 to it. And I'm actually going to start it now at 0. So I'm going up to the declaration of circle x here, and I'm changing it to 0. The reason for that is I want it to start on the far left, because if you think about it, if I keep adding 1 to it, it's going to move to the right, because circle x starts at 0, becomes 1 when I add 1, then it gets drawn, come back around. Circle x is 1, plus 1 is 2, so we draw it 1 more pixel to the right, come back around, 3, 4, etc. So the behavior here, if we go and look at it, is a circle, just like in James Bond, moving from left to right. Wonderful. Now, the thing I said earlier in the previous video is that we should always look at our programs, and if we find numbers, we should change them into variables. And in changing circle x, I've introduced another number into my main program, right? I've introduced this 1. 1 is the value that I'm adding to circle x every frame to make it move to the right. And what is this number? This number should become a variable, but what should I call it is the question. It might become more apparent if I change it to a different number. So if I change it to, let's say, 10. So I'm adding 10. Oh, let's reload the thing. It's moving faster, right? So that number that I'm adding is the number of pixels that it moves to the right every frame. So a good name for that, clearly, I think, is speed. So rather than write 10, what I want to do is maybe write circle speed. And I'm using it here, but I wrote that on faith that I would go and declare it up the top, right? So let circle speed is my new variable, and I'm going to make it 2. So I found a number in my program, and I changed it into a variable. Circle speed is 2, and we know on this line that the circle changes by circle speed every frame. It goes up by circle speed. So now there's my circle moving off to the right using the circle speed variable. Reload, off it goes again. So that's just good practice, right? We want to always be thinking about changing numbers into variables. One thing that is really worth mentioning right now is if I wanted my circle to move to the left. So let's move my circle so that it starts at the right, which is at, let's say, at 500, I'm sorry, the far right, but not the political position of my canvas. And I want it to move left. So one way that I could make it move left is I could say that I want to change circle x by subtracting its speed. Yeah? So that will subtract 2 every frame, and that will work. So if I reload, starts on the right and it moves to the left like everybody should. And then it gets to the extreme left, and then I guess, things can get questionable out there in the extreme left. But that's a totally different course. So that works. But just something I'll just tell you is that in programming, the way that we actually do this is that we would say that it's better to add circle speed, but to make circle speed negative. So when we declare circle speed, or whenever we set circle speed, we make it a negative number to say that it's going to apply in the negative, which means, in this case, it means go left. So it's still the same thing. Circle x plus -2 is the same thing as circle x minus 2. It's just that when we program, we tend to prefer to have the negative element in the variable rather than in the mathematics. Okay? So it's the same effect if we go back and reload. It still moves left. It's just a specific way of writing things down. Okay. One or two more things, and then we'll be finished with this idea of changing variables through math, the beauties of math. And I'm going to change my circle so that it goes to the right again. So I'm going to change its speed to 2, and I'm going to change its starting x position back to 0. So circle x is now 0, circle speed is 2, so it does its thing from left to right. Now I could, if I wanted to, not just change the circle's x based on the speed, I could change the speed as well, right? So I could, for instance, say that I want the speed, circle speed, to get bigger, so that it gets faster. So circle speed plus 0.25, let's say. So every time through draw, and this is getting a little bit complicated, but just to show you that this is possible, the x position changes based on the current speed, starts off as a 2, and then also, oh, that was funny, the speed changes, it gets faster. So the second time through draw, the speed is going to be circle speed plus 0.25, so it's going to be 2.25. And so the next time through, when we calculate circle x, we add 2.25, but then the speed becomes 2.5 because we add another 0.25. So when we change x the next time, we add 2.5, and so on. So every time that we go through draw, the circle is going to move more every single time, right? It's going to move faster and faster. So let's go look at that. Woo! So it's really tearing away there. Starts slower and then it accelerates away off the screen. And so because we always want to name our variables, our numbers, sorry, this 0.25 we should call circle acceleration. That's a good name for it. And again, I need to make sure that I declare it up here, circle acceleration, and I made it 0.25 there. And you could keep doing this infinitely, right? We could also change the acceleration, and we could change the number that changes the acceleration. What we're really sort of getting towards here is some basic mathematics of physics, right? You have the idea of position being controlled by circle x and circle y. The speed or velocity of a shape controls how much it moves each time step or each frame, and the acceleration defines how much its speed changes each frame. So we can build up some actually pretty sophisticated representations of movement, which is really cool. So this is acceleration in our program. One final thing, and then we're finished. There was this one more thing I wanted to say, which is that there's one other way that people write these kinds of changes to their variables, which is just a little shorthand. So here we're changing circle x by taking circle x and adding the circle speed, right? So circle x is assigned itself circle x plus circle speed. Because this sort of thing gets done so frequently in programming, there is a shorter way to write this, which is like this, plus equals. So what we're saying now is circle x is going to be assigned itself plus this value here, circle speed. So circle x plus equals circle speed means add circle speed to circle x. We could do the same thing here for circle speed. Instead of this little extra bit here, we say plus equals. So circle speed plus equals circle acceleration. Add circle acceleration to whatever is already in circle speed. Now, you don't have to use that in your programming. It's completely optional. Both ways work fine, and I'm completely happy with both of them. So you should use whatever suits you. But you will see this plus equals thing a lot when you are seeing programming online. And obviously, I hope it's obvious, there is also a minus equals that would do the same thing except subtract the value, and there is a divide equals, which would do the same thing except it would divide by the value, and there is a multiplication equals, which would do the same thing, but it would multiply by the value. Plus equals is the one that we want there. Okay, and just to show you, I guess, quickly, the program itself does the same thing, right? So plus equals, it's exactly the same program. It's just another way of writing things down. Up to you whether you use that. All right. Well, I think that's about it from me for this video. I'm going to keep making videos. I'm feeling strong and ready to keep going with variables. Hopefully you can continue to see that variables are the lifeblood of programming in a lot of ways, right? This idea of numbers especially, and changing numbers to make things happen in our programs is so powerful. I think it's super exciting. The world is your oyster to a certain extent from here, right? You can do a lot just by changing variables. You can make a lot happen. So I'll see you in the next video. Bye.